All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a YouTube video concerning a dude with a YouTube channel named Euro and Travel YouTube. So it sounds like a travel YouTube channel, but actually he's very highly MAGA. I think he used to do a lot of traveling in the beginning, but unfortunately he has now gone 100% MAGA, and he is, I don't know, just all the way out there for the MAGA movement. His name's actually Graham, so I'm going to refer to him as Graham. But I'm going to go ahead. I got his permission to start making videos on him, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to go ahead and just, answer back to some of the things that he says in the video and try to correct a lot of what he says, because he does say a lot of untrue statements. So now I'm not going to do an entire video of one of Graham's videos, because his videos typically take about an hour to 2 hours, upwards to even 3 hours, and I'm not spending that time doing that. But I'm going to try to be as quick as possible and try not to spend too much time. And I'm going to end it somewhere, so we'll see exactly where I got to end it. Now, I'm not going to play the video on the screen that you guys are currently watching, but rather I'm going to play it on my phone, and I'm going to go ahead and just let you guys see the phone and whatnot. But that's how we'll go ahead and try to view it and everything. So this one is on a video typically stated, MAGA says Trump just ruined everything, question marks. Now the thing is that Graham, he does a lot of trolling. So he'll sit there and say, MAGA supporters thinking of, turning to Democrat, or MAGA, it might become Democrat now. It's all just simply a troll or whatnot. So, but anyways, we'll go ahead and watch this, and I'll go ahead and stop you here and there, and make a comment, and hopefully you guys are able to hear the audio just as well as you're able to hear me. But sometimes I know the audio from one electrical device to another electrical device can somewhat get staticky. So I'm sorry. I'm waiting to get a computer by July. That's going to be more for video editing. So I'm going to do what I can until then. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Actually, here, let's see if we can adjust this a bit. Okay, that actually looks better now. Much, much better. How's everybody doing tonight? How's everybody doing tonight? Smash that like button, guys. Let me know who's watching when we get some people in here. And we're going to be talking about a little bit about socialism, capitalism in this live stream. We're going to be talking about the recent stuff going on in Iran. We're going to be talking about the economy, global situations, global escalations, Tucker Carlson, Mike Kent, other known as Mike C-word. I'm not going to say. We'll just call him Mike Hunt. We'll just call him Mike Hunt. Hunt with an H, Hunter, Hunt. Let me know who's watching out there, though. Smash that like button, guys. We have a lot of interesting stuff.
So really quick, one thing that you hear him consistently say is smash that like button, guys. That's like one of his favorite statements to make. He says it's not his favorite statement, but soon you'll find out that's a statement that he makes continuously throughout the video, because he's trying to get more likes, he's trying to get more subscribers, whichever YouTuber does, but that's the thing that he consistently says more than anything. A lot of times I hear YouTubers say it one time, in their whole video, and that's near the end, but, maybe even subscribe right at the end. But Graham, he consistently says it through his video.
Talk about, how you doing, brother? How you doing? Previously, we were going on a rant why the minimum wage should not be a quote-unquote livable wage. I'm not 100% sure about that guy. But in the previous live stream, we were talking with a socialist. I don't know if you would call him that or not, but I don't know if he is a socialist or not. But he was saying that every single American needs to make a quote-unquote livable wage. A livable wage? And then we talk about a number. These people, these socialists, these livable wage people for all workers, even McDonald's workers, these people want McDonald's workers to make rather anywhere between around $70,000 to around about $150,000 a year, I've heard, depending on the area of the country they live in. But they all want a livable wage, which I can understand the thought process. It is noble. It is, a thoughtful thing. It is empathy, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day...
Okay, so when it comes to minimum wage, minimum wage is, in my current state, is $7.25 an hour. On a 40-hour week, if you work a 40-hour week, you're only getting paid $290, and that's before taxes is taken out. Rent is typically roughly $1,000. In the current town that I'm in, and I'm in one of the cheaper towns, the rent that you would typically find is over $1,000. So if somebody in my town was working minimum wage, they are not paying rent. They're not even paying rent. So forget car payments, forget insurance, forget anything else. Typically anybody that's in my town would probably be homeless under minimum wage. There's just no way, unless they were with somebody that is making more money. But that's a whole nother scenario. But the thing is that minimum wage is not a lot at all. So try to imagine living off of $290 a week, and you're not even seeing the $290 because taxes are being taken out. And that is very detrimental to anybody that would have to make $7.25 an hour. Now, not a whole lot of people are making $7.25 an hour, thankfully. I make I think more than triple than that. More than triple. I'm not going to give out exactly how much I'm making, but yeah, I make more than triple than that. Which is, just pays my bills, and that's about it. But what we do know is that what a person typically makes to this day doesn't even pay for a typically what people are supposed to make is enough to be able to use a third of their money that they bring home for their rent. That's how they try to normalize it. And the thing is that so let's say in my town, and the typical rent is over $1,000, you're having to make sure that you're bringing home at least $3,000 a month. And that is very scary, because there's still not a whole lot of people that bring home $3,000 a month. I'm going to say that I do bring home $3,000 a month, upward, just a tad bit north of that. But sometimes more when overtime's involved in it. But I do know that minimum wage hasn't been changed, for years, and the cost of living has, doubled, tripled, quadrupled since then. I'm not entirely sure exactly how much it has gone up exactly. I'm not bringing that number to you right now. But I do remember my grandfather at one time, he told me that when he was a kid, he worked a job where he was getting paid about $2 per hour. Not a kid, but he was a young adult. $2 an hour, which was really good pay back then. And he said that he was only paying $40 a month for his rent. So in 20 hours he was able to make his rent. I really, rent was a lot more doable back when my grandfather was a child, because their rent was, roughly $40 a month. That was doable back then, very much doable. Rent is not very doable in this day and age. So I'm not saying that raising the minimum wage to a livable wage is the answer. Personally, I would like to see prices to go down. But they're not going down. They've been going up, and I'm pretty sure, Grandma's probably going to say something about prices going up or coming down, because he's, I don't know, like I keep on saying, Delulu, if you think that prices are going down, because prices are not going down, they are on the rise. They are continuously on the rise. So we'll go ahead and keep on going.
small business owners cannot be forced to pay, people $7,000, $8,000 a month.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he's true. Businesses shouldn't be forced to pay employees $7,000, $8,000 a month. I mean, that's just not going to happen. But they can be told to make sure that. Okay, so let's think about McDonald's for a second, because I think McDonald's is the most popular thing that people love to bring up on that. An average McDonald's can pull in about 10 grand per day. Now, typical restaurants, they have this rule to where it's a 1/3 rule. 1/3 of their money is supposed to go towards their product, bringing more product into the store. 1/3 of their money is supposed to go towards employees. And then the 1/3 of their profits are supposed to go towards operations. That's, paying the bills, keeping the lights on, paying the mortgage, whatnot. And that's typically how it's supposed to be. So, if we were to sit there and think, let's say a McDonald's is making $10,000 in one day, and, they work, let's say, 10 employees in that day, which I think the average of McDonald's typically works for anywhere from like 8 to 10 employees, 8 to 12 employees last time I looked at it. I used to work at McDonald's at one time. So 8 to 12 employees per day. Starting from morning shift to night shift. Some of them have more, some of them have less. But yeah, I'm just looking at, an average. So, if you really do the math, you could figure out that McDonald's can comfortably pay their employees $160 per day. And they just don't do it because they're not hitting that 1/3 rule. They're hitting well under that third rule. So they're making profits off of not hitting that 1/3 rule. And their product that they're bringing in, let's say the hamburgers and the onions and stuff like that, that's not even hitting that 1/3 rule because they have a much cheaper process. At one time, they were charging a lot less money, but as of right now, they're charging, more money for the same stuff, almost at what, like let's say a typical restaurant, like Applebee's would normally charge for a meal. So it's very easy to spend almost $20 at McDonald's, whereas if I go to Applebee's, I can get 2 meals for $25. So it's kind of weird to look at, McDonald's and sit there and say, okay, why can't you pay your employees $160 a day? And some of them do, and they do just fine. I don't think the McDonald's that's in our area does that. I think it's more like 14, 13, maybe a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure. But I know that McDonald's can pay their employees more money. It's not because they're trying not to go under. It's because they simply just won't do it because they want that increased profits for themselves. It's just corporate greed. Smaller businesses, if you cannot pay to give an employee a decent wage, then you just don't really need to hire an employee, period. Work that business yourself until you can afford an employee. So that's, if you can find an employee that's willing to get paid $7.25 an hour, I mean, I couldn't do it personally, but that's just weird. I would feel very uncomfortable to know that my employee under me can't pay his bills or her bills because of my greed. That I would not be able to sleep at night. So, yeah.
Starting off as a business.
Oh, and yeah, so starting off as a business, if you're starting off a business, they do typically ask you to make sure that you have a certain amount before you even start the business, which is why I have never been able to start a business, because in order for me to start a business, I could typically start like a random business for a couple $1,000s, but I wouldn't be hiring anybody. I wouldn't be able to hire anybody. It would be strictly just me, and I'll probably be making close to minimum wage until I'm able to grow business. myself, so it's kind of weird how the math works out on that, but you know, in my opinion, if you're just now starting off a business, either make sure you're properly prepped for it, or it's that's a different conversation. Really, it's a very complex conversation because I've looked into the math myself of trying to start a business, and I just ultimately decided against it because I wasn't willing to borrow the money for it. The money just didn't look right on it because I would be, paying money at a lot more faster rate than I would be paying, buying off a home or something like that. And so there's that price increase, and it was just, I didn't really think it was something that I could afford. So it's not something that I'm just going to try because it probably is not going to work out the way that it's currently set up. So I just refuse to do it myself. But if a business is starting out, then you probably should be working by yourself until you're able to get it off the ground eventually. But I don't know. Small businesses, I mean, what are you doing even hiring somebody? Just work it yourself, in my opinion. But if you could find somebody that can do $7.25 an hour, I couldn't sleep at night. I personally could not.
MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. Trump, Trump, Trump. We will win. We are winning.
He's not.
Hey, what's up, brother? Shout out Cape Coral, man. Shout out Cape Coral. How you doing, brother? How you doing? How's everything going? It's been a minute since I seen you. Two men can't make a child. Smash that like button.
Smash that like button again.
Trump hasn't done anything? What do you mean Trump hasn't done anything? He's done a lot.
Okay, he has done a lot. He did. Just not in the right direction. He's done a lot. Just not in the right direction. So yeah.
No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, lowered gas prices, lowered grocery prices, booming economy.
Okay, so first of all, he said no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. Sounds good. It does sound good. And I did give Donald Trump a tad bit of praise about the no tax on overtime because I do work overtime. However, when it came time to do my taxes, I ended up finding out some very disturbing things that kind of irritated me. So, number one, the no tax on overtime is, so typically on overtime, if you work 40 hours, anytime you work over that 40-hour mark, you get time and a half. So, like, let's say if I made $20 an hour and I worked overtime, anything over 40 hours, I'd be getting paid that $20, plus they'll take that $20 and rip it in half. And then there's that $10, and they'll add on that $10 onto the $20. So anytime after 40 hours, I am making $30 an hour. That's how time and a half works. However, on the no tax on overtime, it turns out that in order for you, the amount that you're able to claim isn't the full time and a half. The only time that you can claim is that half point. So let's say, you're making that $30 an hour for overtime. So that 1 hour, you're only able to deduct that $10 out of it. Not the other 20. It's just that $10, only that half. So I'm sitting there thinking, all throughout this year, no tax on overtime sounds pretty good. And, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm making probably over $10,000 in my overtime alone. And I'm like, okay, that's $10,000 that I'm not going to have to claim on this. And then I end up, and then I keep on getting, I'm excited about it. And then I find out, well, no, it's just only the half of the time and a half that I get to claim. And, the math that I had to go through was freaking brutal. Because I was claiming that one way or another. You know, I was going to sit there and say, for one time in my freaking life, I'm going to try to claim a deductible on my taxes. And I tried so hard on that, and the amount of math that I had to go through on that, because I also had to follow the legal law of the strictly over 40-hour thing, because there are some times that holidays were thrown in there. My company pays me regardless. Whether or not I worked was off for the holidays or something like that. But there's a lot of math that I had to go through on that, and it was freaking brutal. And so he should have made it a lot more simple. He should have just sat there and said the whole time and a half, and he made it a lot more complicated than it had to be. And I probably made no money on the time that I spent on it, so probably wasn't even worth my freaking time to do to begin with. But I don't know. He said something. He said lower gas prices, lower groceries, and booming economy. Right? As of right now, gas prices are over $1 more than what they were a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not lying. More than $1 more. They're really high. Gas prices are high. Groceries. So under Obama, I used to spend about $50 a week on groceries. Under Trump's first term, I was spending roughly around $70, $80 a week on groceries. And now currently under Trump, my grocery price per week is slightly over $100. And that's because I'm trying to eat, like, let's say, salmon. So salmon, as of right now, it costs me $12 to buy a pack of salmon. Whereas before it would be about $8, $9 is what I would normally spend on a salmon. So, and I'm not saying that's per pound, I'm just saying that's how much I ended up paying. And I usually typically get around, that $10 mark. If I can get under it, great, because I'm not trying to eat a lot. But the thing is, I ended up getting the cheapest that was available, and the cheapest that was available was $12 and something cents. Meat, that is through the roof right now. I had to forego steak this time because I wasn't willing to pay $27 for the steak that I usually get, because I usually get it about $20.40 for a packet of ribeye thin steaks, twins. But it was more closer to $30, and I wasn't willing to pay that. But I still somehow managed to pay $140 something. So grocery prices are not down, and I keep my receipts, and I do price comparison, and I can see grocery prices are rising. There are some where it's went down, but like the very fact that just a small container of mayonnaise costs almost $5 is insane. So booming economy. I mean, our stock prices are in the trash right now. I mean, S&P 500, it dropped quite a bit. It's last I checked, it was at a 6-month low. Nasdaq, or I don't know how to pronounce it. It's at a 6-month low as well. Dow Jones, it's got the longest losing streak in years, in like 2 years, 3 years, I can't remember. I'm losing track. And all this is affected currently by Trump's Epstein War. I'm calling it the Trump Epstein War, as other online platforms are, because it's just meant to take our attention away from Epstein and focus it more on the war. So I'm release the freaking Epstein files. All right, I'm gonna say that every single time. I mean, release the Epstein files. Come on, it's the freaking law. Person who's law and order it can't even freaking follow the law himself. So it's affected by Trump's Epstein War, and it's affected by current oil prices. Crypto is also dropping. All these things, like we're in a jobs recession. And I'm not going to tell you some of the things that I know, but I know of some places that close their door down. That's kind of close to home. And I don't mean physically, but I'm really don't want to get much more into it. But there are businesses that I know of that are closing down that I know is not a good thing. And it's looking pretty grim out there. So this right here, I've always call it textures on a wall. It's just meant to hide imperfections going on. We need to see those imperfections. We need to see real data out there, and the data showing that we're not a booming economy right now. So, and that's why I keep continuously say this is Delulu right here. This is Delulu talk. And you know, Graham he has to be smarter than this. I keep on thinking that he's not really a MAGA, that he's really just just doing this to make money. So he can't be this delusional on this because gas prices are not doing well. Grocery prices are not doing well. Stock markets are not doing well. Crypto is not doing well. And, you know, our economy as a whole is not doing well at all. So we'll go ahead and keep on going.
Booming stock market, booming crypto.
And I just talked about the stock market and crypto. All right? It's not doing good. It's not booming. If you're booming, it's like falling down. It's booming this way. It's not booming this way. It's booming this way. So this is very, very. This is Delulu talk right here, and you know, I don't use that term lightly. As Delulu talk.
Trump is doing more than any other president in the last 50 years.
I wish he wasn't.
$40 McDonald's hamburgers, where is that at? California, maybe, because it's a very
pretty
poor
sure it doesn't
mismanaged
exist.
state where they force fast food to give you a $20 freaking minimum wage.
Again, they could afford it. I know they can afford it. They just corporate greed. That's all it is.
But smash that like button, guys.
Smash that liking, guys. Sorry, I said that wrong. Smash that like button, guys. Smash that like button. You don't have to like this video. I don't care. But yeah, that's smash that. I gotta really keep track of how many times one video of how many times he says smash that like button, because you know it's probably gonna be how far are we into this video? We're over 10%. We're roughly 12% into the video, and he's probably said it like 3-4 times. I'm gonna say he's did it 4 times, because sometimes he says it twice in one saying. So he could have really said it like 5 or 6 times. I'm just gonna say 4. You know, he could have said that statement. I don't know. Over 40 times, probably 50, 60 times throughout this whole video. That is his favorite statement. He has told me it is not. Data shows that it is. Data shows that is his favorite statement.
Smash that like button. No, 2 men cannot have a kid. 2 sperm and 1 woman cannot make a kid. It's impossible. So obviously you don't even know this first thing about biology. If 2 men mix their fluids together and put it inside of a woman, it doesn't mean the baby's going to be half and half. Are you a fucking moron? Lesbians can't have kids either. Are you like, how dumb are you? Are you even old enough to vote? Are you just one dumb liberal? 2 men can't make a child. So no, gay men cannot make a child. You can mix it like the lotto, but it doesn't mean it's going to be 50% him and 50% him. Why be proud of homosexual activities? I don't know, Bill.
I went to a Pride event one time. It was a Pride Fest of some sorts nearby, and there was a few religious people that were protesting the event. And I went up to the religious people and asked, what's so wrong about us having a Pride Fest? And he immediately started mouthing off the Proverbs 16:18, pride before destruction, kind of nonsense on that. And he is right. Pride is a bad thing. However, the pride that is announced in that verse is not the same kind of pride for pride events. And I don't think Graham was really getting into the whole pride on the religious spectrum and everything. But the pride that the Bible talks about is actually what Donald Trump is. So Donald Trump, he has consistently said that only he can stop these wars. Only he can do a good job. Only he can save America. That is prideful talk. There was one time there was some kind of clash going on between two people, and and so they were talking about it on the news with Donald Trump on the phone, and Donald Trump had stated, they only want to talk because of me. And that is pride. That is the biblical kind of pride that God says pride goes before destruction. Donald Trump is very prideful. The pride that the LGBT community has is the kind of pride whereas there's nothing shameful about what I am doing. And we could have that whole separate discussion. And that's a whole separate discussion on itself as to whether or not it's shameful. But the thing is that the LGBT community, many of the members have fought so hard not to be part of the LGBT community. Many of the LGBT members came from churches. They were very, very loyal church members who went to church every single Sunday, and they fought against who they are. Teeth to the nails. They fought really, really hard, and they prayed. They talked to their pastors. They tried really, really hard, and in the end found out that it wasn't something that they can fight. And I have my own personal story on this. I really, really do, because at the moment to where I found out that I lost that fight, I felt like an abomination. So I felt like I had to separate from God completely. And that's a really, really dangerous thing. And that's why pride is so important to the LGBT community, because it's a statement of, we're not doing anything wrong here. We are okay. There's nothing wrong with us. We are proud of this one thing about us that you guys tend to think makes us the worst people that's ever existed. So when you look at me as an individual, I work a job. I am buying this house. This house right here is being paid for by me from money that I work with the job. I do not receive food stamps. I don't receive any government assistance. I pay my bills. All my bills are paid. I got to remember to pay my car payment real quick, and I'll be paying my car payment after I'm done making this video. But there's all these things that I'm supposed to be doing that I'm doing, and I'm doing a decent job. And the very fact that a MAGA person can look at me and say, "Well, you're a transgendered. You're an absolute terrible person. That's worse than some of the filthiest scum in the world." And that is Delulu talk. That really is Delulu talk, because a person's sexual orientation or a person's gender identity, any of that, does not make them a bad person. There's a lot of really good people that are part of the LGBT community. Some of the nicest people you ever meet. People who will be in the homeless shelters feeding homeless people who go to church every single Sunday soup, hot soup. So there's a lot of, and I've met these LGBT community members, some of the nicest people that you ever meet, that does a lot of good in their community. So, nothing wrong with them. So it baffles me how they could consistently berate the LGBT community just because they have a preference on who the individual should be to begin with.
It can't be done in a lab. To make a child, it's one egg.
Okay, so really quick, this is a very limited statement he's making. It can't be done in a lab. I don't think it's ever actually been done in a lab. But we know that the science is there. I've heard the talks on it. I've heard the explanations behind it, and it really does look like it might be possible to do. The question is whether or not we should actually do it. And that's a whole different discussion. I'm not going to get in that discussion right now. But the thing is that I know the MAGA crowd and the Republican crowd, they like it when things are black and white. But things aren't black and white. There is gray. Gray exists. And if you throw in some sparkles, it becomes something that is really, really beautiful. So the very fact that, he's limiting the science on this, and the thing is, the scientist is showing that, whatever rules you guys want to make, screw your rules. We're gonna go beyond that. We're gonna go beyond your rules. A lot of the things that exist today, if you go into the 1800s, like let's say if I were to go in the 1800s and say that I can look at a box and see, all these colors on the box and be entertained by the stuff that's going on in the box, called a TV, and I don't even have to have a cable wire plugged into it. They'll probably look at me and be like, "You're Delulu," all right? Thing is that just because it's not being done right now doesn't mean it's not possible. Nature is showing that it's doing a whole lot of things that are not normal for humans. Like, let's say, what is it? I think it's seahorses, right? I could be wrong, but I think it's seahorses where the male actually gives birth to the children. So nature is consistently showing us that things are not as black and white as MAGA would like it to be, and it's not a bad thing that it's not just black and white. It can be beautiful if you let it.
And one male fluid. It's that simple. Like, do you guys really not understand fucking biology?
Okay, and also remember, and I did hear that this had been done, is that it is possible to change the sex of an embryo right at the very start of it. And I've heard that they've actually done it. Like, they'll sit there and ask the mother and father if you would like a boy and a girl, and they can actually change it. That might be a little pricey, I don't know. But I heard that's been done. I'm not 100% sure if it's actually been done. But I heard a rumor on that. So don't quote me on it. But I could have sworn that I heard that it was actually done. And that is something that is possible for them to currently do, or that they've even done it. But they know exactly where that process happens, and they could change that process. They can, at that particular point, make it go one direction or the other. And I'm not going to say if it's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that the science can do a lot more than what he limits it at. We could do a lot more. We are... I mean, they're even talking about the possibility of transgender people one day having children. And I'm not going to really get into the explanation of that, or even the right and wrongs of that. That's a whole nother discussion. But science is pushing boundaries that, I'm pretty sure he would not be comfortable with. I'm going to do it just a little bit more. I don't know how much more I'm going to do.
Are liberals that goofy That uneducated, they don't even know how a baby is made? But smash that like button, guys. Let's get the views way up there. Let's get the likes way up there. How's everyone's night going? Listen, guys. A child can only be made by a man and a woman. It's that simple. There's only two genders. There's no such thing as a transgender because you can't transition your gender.
Seriously.
You can't change your cells. You can't change your, hip bones. You can't change your bone structure.
Okay, so kind of technically you can change your bone structure, but it's not a good thing to do, and it's very frowned upon because it can cause a lot of complications. Doctors don't typically mess with the bones unless they have to, unless they have no choice. But it can be prevented, though. It can be prevented, but MAGA doesn't want it to be prevented because they don't want transgendered people to exist to begin with. And, to them, it's like, the LGBT community should not exist at all. So I guess America's only free as long as you're like them, which isn't freedom to begin with. So, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird when they sit there and try to talk about a lot of things that they talk about because they want this country to be a free country, but they want it to be free for themselves. They don't want that freedom to go towards other people. And the thing is when you're a free country, that freedom should be extended to everybody, despite whether or not you're comfortable with what direction they go to. But Graham, he has consistently stated that he doesn't hate people being transgendered. He just doesn't agree with it, and he doesn't cheer it on or anything like that. But he has made a lot of terrible statement towards the transgender community as a whole. So, he is not always saying what he actually believes in his mind. Because in his mind, we don't know exactly how he thinks about the transgender community. Because I remember when I wanted to debate with him on transgenderism, he did not want to talk about transgenderism at all in a debate. He did not want to talk about transgenderism in a debate with me, and I actually had to pay in order to get him to agree to debate about transgenderism. And throughout that debate, it wasn't even really a debate at all. There were a lot of things that he tried to state that were untrue and everything. But there are some areas that he thought that he was going to be able to get me, and I'm sat. One of them specifically is Dr. John Money. He thought that I would be a supporter of Dr. John Money. And I sat there and told him, look, I'm not. And I think he was moreover surprised that I even knew about Dr. John Money. And I was actually surprised that he brought Dr. John Money up, thinking that I was going to be okay with Dr. John Money, which I wasn't. So that's kind of weird. Let's continue.
What topics am I ignorant on? Non-binary is not a gender. It's just a bullshit figment of your imagination. Non-binary doesn't exist. Liberals are lost.
I understand. We can make up whatever words we want to, and if we need to use a wording system such as non-binary to help us explain where we're at in our lives, where we're at in our thought processes and everything, to help it make a little bit more clearer of an explanation, then so be it. So non-binary, to you, it might be, what was his statement? I'm losing track of what that statement was, but a figment of your imagination, I think is what he said. So you can say that it's a figment of the imagination, but it helps explain where they're currently at with their thought process and everything, and who they are. I've always stated to people that I love labels. I love it when people use labels on themselves because it helps me understand who they are as a person. So if somebody were to sit there and say that they're Presbyterian, that I know where they're at with their religion. If somebody were to sit there and say, well, I'm Catholic, I know where they're at with their religion. I'm not wanting to debate with them. I'm not wanting to sit there and say whether or not they're right or wrong. But it helps me understand who I'm talking to. Because I might not want to talk bad about their religion to them because it's not that really big of a deal to talk bad about their religion to them. I know with me, I'm a Baptist person. So when I sit there and tell you that I'm Baptist, you know that I believe that Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. I believe that the King James Bible is the only Bible that you need to read, and I believe that baptism is by fully immersion and everything like that. So you know where I am on my category, and that's the same when it comes to non-binary. It just helps us to know who the person is. Let's continue.
We need to pray for them and hope, God changes them, changes their hearts. Non-binary is not a gender. Non-binary is not a gender. You're wrong about Israel, Blake. I'll just read your own comment back at you.
I'm not talking about Israel. There's no
Gender is not a social construct. It's actually a scientific construct. But unfortunately, gender was made into a construct by a man named John Money when he was the first man that started to do transgender surgeries. And he started to get paid for it. The first transgender ever by John Money in the 1950s committed, offing themselves, took their own lives, unfortunately.
He learned that from me.
Sex and gender equaled the exact same thing before John Money invented some bullshit thing saying it was social construct. And John Money didn't create modern science, so therefore I'm not going to follow his gender theory that gender is something different than sex. There is a simple explanation. John Money is the man that invented the fact that gender is how you feel, not your sex. Therefore, I'm not following his science because he was an evil scientist. He didn't do trans.
Okay, I'm not gonna play any more of Graham right now. Like I told you, during my debate with Graham, he brought up John Money and asked if I was a supporter of John Money. If you don't know anything about John Money, Dr. John Money, he was a doctor. I think he died just after I got out of high school. So I think that was 2007-ish. I can't remember. I know it was after I was out of high school, and I graduated in 2005. So he was a known doctor, a psychologist and sexologist and whatnot in the 1950s-ish era, roughly around there. And he did first coin the phrase of gender meaning more of a social construct rather than what's in between your legs, because we already have the word sex for that. So when a child is born and they have a penis, then that sex is notified on the birth certificate as male. If they have a vagina, then the sex is identified as female on the birth certificate. And as we know, to this day, that it is possible for children to be born with both of them at the same time. It's kind of, it's kind of weird how it is, but that happens all the time. It's rare, but it still happens a lot more often than you would think it does. And that's one area that Dr. John Money had actually contributed his study towards. Yeah, Dr. John Money was a really bad person. He did something really crappy. So what he did was there was a child that had a had a surgery done, not by Dr. John Money, it was a different doctor. It was circumcision, and it was butchered. It was not done good. And so the parents brought their child to Dr. John Money. Dr. John Money decided to do a sex change operation on that child and said just raise that child as a female. And that child later on would end up unaliving themselves, in their adult life, because they struggled with it. It was something that they struggled with. But what a lot of you don't know is that Dr. John Money, he did it more than that time. He's done it. He done a lot of gender sex change surgeries on children. But the thing is that these children, they weren't like 16, 17. They weren't 13 or 14. They weren't even like 10 or 11. They were so young that they didn't even have a construct of what a boy or a girl is. So they were that young, because Dr. John Money's theory was that you can force a child to go one way or the other. You can force them to be a boy, or you can force them to be a girl. That was Dr. John Money's theory. And that theory was actually proven incorrect. And it was very evident because the children that he had worked on started unaliving themselves later on in life. Some of them finding out, some of them not even finding out. He had prematurely, stating that he was successful in his studies. And he ultimately was not successful in his studies, and he is to this day known as a really bad doctor. And any transgender person that really knows much about Dr. John Money knows that he is not, a hero of the LGBT community. And he actually proved one of MAGA theory points wrong, is that you cannot force a child to be one sex or the other. If a child believes that they're a female, you cannot force them to be a boy. You just can't force it out of them. So if you sit there and think that you could force your child to be a boy, yeah, they might be a boy. They might have been born a boy, but if their gender part right there says that I'm not a boy, you can't force it out of them. You can't. It's going to be big trouble for them later on in life. They're going to be running into a lot of complications. I'm not saying that we need to have an actual sex change operation for them, but what I'm saying is that we need to at the very least listen and try to show some support at the very least. You can't force children one direction or the other. There shouldn't be any kind of forcing. You should support children on the direction that they go, and children will naturally go that direction whether or not you want them to go. They will end up going the direction that they're going to go regardless of what you do, because you can't ultimately force them to. And if you successfully find a way to force them, then they're probably going to do exactly what Dr. John Money's patients did and unalive themselves. And I hate to make that claim, but it happens all the freaking time, and that's why suicide rates among the transgender community are so high. Is because we're consistently trying to force people to go down the path that they don't believe they need to be going down. You need to let them go down the path that they need to go down naturally. But yeah, Dr. John Money, yeah, he was a mad scientist. He was. All scientists are mad scientists if they're doing their jobs a certain way. But it doesn't mean that we can't discredit everything he does. So I mean, his whole gender his whole gender wording on that was the one thing that he did right. The Nazis, we got a lot out of Hitler and the Nazis. We got a lot of things that we use today, the radio communications technology, the protections for our soldiers and everything. A lot of that was from Nazi technology, and Fanta was created by Nazis, and so if you're a MAGA supporter, you're a Fanta drinker. That was created by a mad scientist. So just because it came from something bad doesn't mean it's all bad. It doesn't mean everything they did was bad. Dr. John Money, I'm pretty sure, did some good stuff while he was doing the bad stuff. And the bad stuff does not discredit every single good thing that he's done. He, whereas with that gender strictly meaning social construct, if you want to deny that being the case, I mean, it's a free country, do what you want. But try to keep in mind, all right, the great Dr. John Blake, a.k.a. Thor, from the movie Avengers the Infinity War, had stated, all words are made up. All right? So all words are made up, all words evolve, all words form a different meaning after some time. Like, you got the word fag, used to mean cigarette, and now it's more of a slang, negative kind of slang towards a gay male. There's plenty of words out there. Cool didn't always mean it's a positive term. Cool used to mean it's a little cool in here. It's a little chilly. It's just words evolve after time. And you got to let them evolve. If you want to not use it, you don't have to. It's America. Do what you want. But if the majority of the people want to sit there and say, well, we need a word that helps us explain different things, so we'll go ahead and use gender to help us explain this a little bit better, then so be it. It's not like transgenderism thing is a thing that doesn't exist. It exists. People really are dealing with something. It's roughly 1% of the population that's dealing with transgenderism, and you cannot discredit transgenderism when it's 1% of the population that's dealing with it. There's a lot of things out there that consist of 1% of the population. Like let's say I can never say this thing correctly, and I'm not even entirely sure I want to say it because I know a lot of people will make fun of it, but it's that fibromyalgia. It's that that central nervous thingamajig. 2% of America has that. So we cannot discredit people that has fibromyalgia. Just because they're 2% of America. It's a smaller percentage of Americans, but we still gotta sit there and say, well, there really is something here, because that's quite a few people still. That's still a lot of people. Look, I mean, with all this, I mean, Graham makes a lot of statements that he shouldn't be making. He's painting with a lot of textures to hide Trump's imperfections. And the thing is that we really need to start getting a sander and start sanding down those textures to try to get the correct information. Gas prices are not going up. This is Delulu Talk, Graham. Come on, man, do better, dude. Economy's not doing good. Donald Trump's not doing good. We're not doing good. This is chaotic. This is confusion, and you gotta do better. We gotta do better as people. So, look, I'm out. You guys have a great evening. Be safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Smash that like button and subscribe if you want. I don't really care whether or not you do it, but regardless, please have a good day.